point. I want to move on to this. And this is not going, these segments not going to take long. Yes, we're going to get into pop culture. Yes, I know you don't like it, but the people love when you talk about Hollywood, right? However, when we do get into pop culture, you could keep those conversations short to 2 minutes, quick. But are sports too dangerous? So recently, Monday, the Buffalo Bills versus Cincinnati Bengals in Cincinnati. DeMar Hamlin, less than 5 minutes into the game, it was a tackle. He went down, popped up, and then just fell out, collapsed. He come to find out it was cardiac arrest, like a heart attack. Medics came onto the field, CPR, AED. 5 minutes later, the ambulance was there. He was stable when he was in the ambulance, rushed him to the hospital, um, put him on a ventilator. And they had to sedate him, so they could run tests and everything. But as of, and I want to share this is an update, right? Um, so we got an update. It says remarkable. Bill's DeMar Hamlin awake and neurologically intact after terrifying collapse. See, great
I
news.
hate headlines like that.
Huh?
I hate terrifying collapse. No, a lot of people have died. It's unfortunate. And let me break it down to this. In martial arts, which I've taken for 55, 56 years now, 57, okay, there is a strike. You can use the heel of the hand. You put a lot of power behind it if you can. You can hit right here,
Mm-hmm.
slightly to the right of center. And what winds up happening is if you time this right and you do it right, you can cause somebody's heart to go arrhythmic and they'll pass
Yep.
out. And there are medical terms for this. Now, what's getting me is this conundrum. In the entire 100-some years of professional football, NFL, and they had a national football conference. Famously, the Cleveland Browns came out of that
Mm-hmm.
in the 1940s. And in that whole history, there's been one person that died on the field in an NFL game, and that was in 1971. It was wide receiver, and he was returning to the huddle after a play, and he dropped dead from a cardiac arrest.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is just part of this whole thing about making everything safe until you get to the point where nobody takes risk. Now, sports started off as a preparation for the hunt, as a preparation for war, as a substitute for war, as you go through human history. The fact that football is dangerous is part of its attraction. I played football in high school and for a while in college.
Right.
We had old Rydell helmets. They were plastic, but they didn't have all of the fancy pads and everything in there. And they were canvas straps with a few horsehair stuffed leather pads around you, right below your ears that would be on the corners of your jaws. And people used to get knocked out all the time, and it was dangerous. And every year, 25 to 35 people died playing football in America, typically in practice in high school or college. Every now and then, some overweight guy dropped dead of a heart attack practicing for the pros. Most of the time, that didn't happen. But part of the attraction was when you went out on the field, you knew you could be seriously injured or die. So the point is these were rites of passage. I'm out there putting myself in jeopardy. And what did we find? World War II, Korea, Vietnam, even currently, we find a lot of the people that wound up war heroes were also football heroes and they had the ability and the mental acumen. A lot of people who have the mental acumen didn't have the physical size or whatever, but they played it. And I noticed that people that played football tend to be somewhat different in character than a lot of other people. And in my lifetime, I have said, you played football, didn't you? Yeah, how'd you know? Because of the way you carry yourself and how you act. See,
Wait. Now that you said that, I don't mean to interrupt you. That is so true. I've heard football players, even my father, my brother, and associates, they said football teaches you life skills.
it does. See, and the other thing is it reduces social violence. See, football players, when you get out there, that's a war going on. You're trying to take this guy in front of you down, or he's trying to take you down. The objective on the defense is you're trying to wipe out the running back or the receiver when they catch, or get the quarterback or be prevented. So you got to knock somebody down. You get all of that out of you. You see, so when you get it out of you, you don't need to do what you might do otherwise, where you get all this stuff where everybody's frustrated, hostile, etc., etc. And
I want to play this
football
clip.
players tend to be peaceful off the field.
Yeah, definitely. I want to play this. I want to play this clip.
Now, who is this we're looking at?
Wait a minute. Let me make sure that I have it correct. Make sure I have the sound. Yes, I do. Okay. So this is The View, and they were talking about non-contact football or something, but
How in the hell are you gonna have
well,
non-contact?
not as don't tackle as hard. So let me just play this clip.
Oh, get off of it.
Right? I mean, my kid played football. He was recruited for college, and he got a terrible hamstring injury getting hit. And I saw him collapse to the ground. Thank you. And he went through physical therapy for 6 months. And he realized at that point, that could happen to my brain.
Right.
Yeah. And so he quit. And he did. He quit. And it was a very hard thing for him because he loved doing it. Yeah. But I don't think it's going to turn people away from the sport, because I mean, I went to Notre Dame. It's like faith, family, football. It's a big deal, and it's $105 billion industry.
Yeah. Well, like 45% of Americans think that tackle football is appropriate. Wow. Heterosexual men voted the most support for kids doing football, and conservatives were more likely to support youth tackle football. Just saying.
So I don't think it'll turn people away from consuming the sport, because it is, as Sunny says, such a huge part of tradition.
In this country,
In this country. I grew up, football was just the norm.
Yeah, that was it. So
bottom line is, what did I say? It prepares you in life for some other things. And to get out there and to let it all hang out, damn, you're putting it in.
I don't understand the comment of heterosexual men.
Well, what it is
why does she single out heterosexual and conservative men?
The heterosexual men support football, the contact sport, watching it, playing it, but the other side that tends
there are gay men who play football.
I know, but I'm just saying we have to talk about a balance. Do you have a group this big, or do you have a group that big? And if a group that big supports what this other group this big supports, yeah. But I'm sure there are other ways around. But in other words, it's a masculine sport. And see, what we miss out on is when we talk about homosexuality, all gay males are not into switching and twitching and being effeminate.
No, it's the total opposite.
Do the exact opposite. Now, there are two types of homosexual practitioners generally: those who hate the opposite sex or dislike it or have nothing that the opposite sex can do for them, and then those who want to be the opposite sex. Now, when I used to do this diagnostic thing or read the diagnosis from sentencing when I was on the bench, when I had people mentally assessed, there was that distinction. Do they want to be woman haters, or do they want to be women? and there were differences in the outcomes. See, we don't get that. That LGBTQ thing is not homogenous. And as we experienced, remember the bunch we thought were some trolls that came in? Remember Gays Against Grooming on that Twitter space we had, where they came in and they cut this guy up who came across as a groomer? You remember that. See, it's not uniform. So
Yeah, I don't want to go too far off into
we're
that.
not going to get off, but there is this thing why they came up with that heterosexual men tend to support this, because that's what we did. We hunted and we brought in the protein that we needed as a species to survive through the winter. And we also were the warriors, because when somebody
But this is what I'm saying, though. But this is what I'm saying, for them to say heterosexuals as if men who like other men sexually or romantically are weak or not, gladiators. And it doesn't. It's a man. Men, period, like football, no matter who your
let's put it this
sexual preference is. So
let's put it this way. We're going to lead into your next thing. Dealing with the folk in Hollywood. Yeah, you've got some overtly masculine gay folk that like stuff that other guys like. And then you have the ones that they switch and twitch and they like the girl stuff and dislike the guy stuff.
Let's shove that for a minute, because I want to finish out with our sports too dangerous, Damar Hamlin. Let me just, before people, he didn't have a heart attack or try to correct me, let me just read this. The team said in a statement Thursday morning that the Bills' safety is neurologically intact and has shown remarkable improvement over the past 24 hours, just days after he suffered cardiac arrest in Monday Night Football game against the Bengals in Cincinnati. Per physicians caring for Damar Hamlin at the University of Cincinnati Medical Center, Damar has shown remarkable improvement over the past 24 hours while still critically ill. He has demonstrated that he appears to be neurologically intact. His lungs continue to heal, and he is making steady progress. We are grateful for the love and support we have received. I'm so happy,
Good for him. I'm glad he's recovering.
Let me also say this about football. So when we're talking about the cardiac arrest he experienced, football, you are least likely to experience that in football. More concussions, more cardiac arrests, anything with heart failure, anything that's affecting your heart. The leading sport is soccer, basketball, running. It's not football. So, I don't want the subjective cult coming after the sport of football. Why? Because football not only gives that boy going into manhood life skills, it keeps them out of trouble, particularly Black boys that live in the urban hood ghetto or whatever. It allows certain small percentage, if you have the chance to go to the NFL, to provide a living, a good living, and develop and create generational wealth if you know what you're doing with your money. But it gives you an education in college so you can have a career. They don't have to be in sports. It help changes a young boy's life, right? So I don't want.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Also, let me say this. In the 50s, pro football was morphing into the plastic Rydell helmet. A lot of teams still wore the old leather helmets, or fiberboard helmets. They weren't anything but padded caps, so to speak, covering your ears. No face mask. And when you played football in the NFL, what happened was that you could get back up and run after you got tackled if you got up before the whistle blew. So everybody would pile on the guy so nobody could get back up. It was really rough. If you watch rugby now, there are no downs, it's continuous until there's a foul or an infraction and it stops. So guys get tackled, throw the ball up from down on the ground, and somebody keeps running and they don't have helmets, face masks, pads, anything else. Rugby is a really rough sport. I love watching it. It's really exciting. It moves fast. In my impression right now, basketball has gotten too slow. Football has gotten too slow. It's too delicate. Baseball, it's a good way to put yourself to sleep if you have insomnia. And
They make a
hockey,
whole lot of money though.
I know, but see, it is what it is. So everybody's trying to make everybody so delicate. So you're paying the stars millions of dollars a year to do what? At least let's see if they can conquer these dangers. I mean, that used to be why the Romans flocked to the Colosseum and other gladiatorial venues around the empire. They wanted to see people who would put it out. And essentially, they're still serving the same function. Caesar said it 2,060 years ago. Give them bread and circuses, feed them and entertain them, and the ordinary people won't give a damn what their betters do. Now, I always say the most interesting game is the one we were talking about on the beginning of the show. What's happening in the politics? That's the real deal. People get killed for real on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
As General Clausewitz says, a Prussian general, he wrote in Von Krieg, which means on war. He said, war is but the ultimate extension of the political process. If the political processes, short of outright war, are dealt with, they become a good substitute for the incredible violence that comes out of war. And the nation should not go to war unless it is unavoidable. Unless, so there it goes. So we are dealing with stand-ins for this. And if we're getting so delicate with something like a football game, what does it say about our capacity as a nation to remain a free people? That we have the will to do that? Now, here's one other thing, too. That article I sent you about that 1971 death, the article was posed as, is this a sign of improvement from the reaction? So they showed all these football.
I don't know what article that is, so don't even bring it up.
Well, okay. Well, just basically, here's what it is. They had some pictures of the players at the game, all in shock, crying and carrying on. And the game was stopped, and they contrasted it with 1971, where somebody actually died on the field, and they didn't revive him. They said the game just went on. It was just mentioned in passing. Oh, by the way, somebody died of a heart attack.
But what does that have to do with sports being too dangerous?
In other words, what it was that the game went on. These people were there to play football.
Yeah, but I'm glad that this particular game was stopped.
It was stopped. So here's what I'm getting is a read out of it. 1971, there was a real live shoot 'em up and a whole lot of people who were getting notices. We regret to inform you that your son, your husband, your father, whatever, your uncle, whatever, your brother did not make it back from the Nam and was killed in action or is missing in action, presumed dead. And everybody was worried about getting those draft notices. So with that context, somebody dying during a football game was unfortunate, but several hundred every week were getting notices that their loved ones had died in the Nam. So there was a different attitude. Nobody gets drafted now, and the total for the entire fracas for 20 plus years in the Middle East.
I mean, I get what you're saying, but as far as, then and now, but the point is, the fact is that, as far as the NFL not resuming that game, I think that was appropriate and the right call. We're not going to get into that.
But I want to ask you that since you brought it up to me. Why was that the appropriate call?
Why was it appropriate? Because you have to, first of all, it was the players and the coaches that said, we're not going to continue to play.
That's the point. Why was it appropriate for them to do that?
Because they could not, psychologically, they were distraught. Because
you go.
that mean no. Let me finish, because that doesn't mean that they're less of a man.
I didn't say
I
it.
spoke to my father.
Man.
I asked my wait a minute. I asked my father that same question, and we have to go to pop culture. But I asked my father that same question. Do you think that they should continue with the game or stop? Because what they're going to do is the playoffs. They have to count that game. They have to play whatever. When they're going to reschedule. He was like, absolutely, they should have stopped and suspended that game. He was like, all the times I've been playing football, high school, especially in college, we see guys get injured during the play, just like that, right? We've seen guys' legs broken and their ankles actually going the opposite direction or popped out to socket or get a concussion. You see that, they do chart them off the field and we resume back playing. He was like, that still affects you mentally, but you go on playing. He was like, however, when you see a man on the field like this player, DeMar Hamlin, who literally heart stopped, wasn't conscious, and they had to come out there and resuscitate him. He was like, that does take it to a whole nother level. How do you tell your players who coming out of that locker room to resume back to playing? He was like, psychologically, the players are not going to be into the game. That's why it was appropriate for them to suspend it. Because
Now,
they could play. They could no. You could play. You could do your
but hold on.
or are you doing wait? Are you doing your job well? And also, you have to at one point show respect.
Okay, how about this? Sports, my initial premises, sports to begin with started off as preparing to be able to hunt or wage war or as a substitute for war. Now, that said, let's take the scenario I grew up in. You're 18 years old, you could get drafted. My father grew up under that scenario. 18 years old, you could get drafted. He got drafted. He wasn't 18, in his 30s, but you get drafted. Nobody asks you whether you want
comparing a draft to
life.
Sport.
Hold on.
It's a sport.
No, hold on. If you are going to be able to be in a real life, let's kill everybody situation, what happens if somebody gets jacked up, dies playing a sport, and you get all bent out of shape, you can't continue? Would you be able to do that on the battlefield? No. Yeah. The Defense Department, 12.
Wait a minute. Don't go too far into that.
Now, I'm not going to go too far into it, but it is the reality. 12 years ago, the Pentagon issued a series of white papers.
No. But my point is, comparing a sport to the military.
No, this is the point.
That's not war. It's two different types of wars here.
It won't be long. Now, the report said.
Is it under a minute?
Yeah, it says we can make you physically strong, but we can't make you mentally tough. In other words, you have to come into the military with mental toughness. And they listed a set of categories and exemplars of this lack of mental toughness. And this would have fit in there with that. In other words, somebody is out there and everybody's got to panic, freak out, just get totally disabled. That doesn't show mental toughness. And that's because we say that's okay. 50 years ago, we would have said, no, that's not okay. So maybe we were wrong then, maybe we're wrong now. And we as a society are going to have to resolve that conundrum.
Okay.
How do we deal with mental toughness, and is that necessary?
Oh, I totally get what you're saying. However, you don't have to prove your mental toughness when you have a colleague that literally died on the field and was brought back to life. So let me insert this, and then we're going into pop culture. 9/11. I worked in downtown Newark for a health insurance company, and we had the whole view of Manhattan. You could see the Twin Towers, plain as day. So when 9/11 happened, we saw where the planes, where the buildings were hit by the planes and the smoke coming out. We saw when the buildings collapsed. Oh, do you think that anybody in that building could just go back to their desk and start typing and going on with their day? Hell no.
Need to get out the building.
Matter of fact, even if you could, the company said everybody go home. And we all went. And even if they did not say it, people were going to leave. Because first of all, you didn't know what was going on. We just witnessed thousands of people being killed in less than a minute when both those buildings collapsed. Who's going to sit down and go back to work? So,
well, I mean, that was talking about clearing the killing ground. That was
it does not matter when you're talking about being mentally strong and overcoming.
Right.
I totally get that, and I totally get your analogy with the military. But at one point, you have to show respect, and you have to understand.
Okay.
So
how about all the people that die down in the hood or in the hallways on a daily basis in America? How about me being 9 years old?
Wait. Perfect example.
Somebody get his guts literally cut out. Was I supposed to bail on what else went on in life? How about cross another street? I was maybe 15 yards away. Somebody got mad and burnt this club up. And 5 or 6 people ran out on fire and died. So am I supposed to stop, or is anybody in the neighborhood supposed to stop? How about being
I get what you're saying, but at one point you should. No. At one point,
guy gets shot from 5 feet away.
I totally get that. Wait a minute. But at one point, you should stop and assess the situation. Yeah.
Yeah, did you get the hell out of Dodge?
We all need a mental health check-in. We all do.
Yeah, but I'm just
speaking of that. Wait, I'm about to switch the topic. Yeah. So speaking of that, because and again, this is pre-recorded. I probably have to shift it around because me and you could go on and on into a topic, which is let me
thing here for your scenario. The 911 responders, when they started seeing the first people die, should they have said, "Oh, we got to stop"? Let's
no,
stop.
You know what? That's their job to.
Well, it's their job.
No, it's not their. No, it's not their job. Wait. It's their job. It's their. It's their job to help someone who's dying.
The whole damn fire department
team is there to entertain us.
Wait, the whole fire department, NYPD. FDNY.
They ran up in that building.
No, hold on. I'm willing to almost make a bet that what all of them were getting paid, all of them together, did bravely carried on. And
what is your point? What is your point? What is your point?
In other words, they did not get paid with these football.
And that's a horrible analogy.
No, it's not.
Going there. We're not going there.
Paid
I don't want to go there. I'm not. No, just because you're getting paid $1 million, that doesn't mean the firefighters that risk their lives every day, they could do it. Then we could just proceed on with this game. It's totally different because their job is to go into danger. That's their job. Their job is to save you from dying. Their job is to save you from dying, and sometimes they die in the process.
Well,
football, you're not saving someone from dying. You use a physical contact sport that is there to entertain people.
And also prepare the players for something. Remember, the English used to have this thing.
I don't want to go into that. No. We got to move on. We got to move on. We got to move on.
Yeah, I know, but it's a mindset.
We just disagree on that, and I don't want to elaborate too much.
Getting paid that much money, you keep your ass out on the field.
Don't judge him, Joe Brown.